Let's react.
This was the moment pop music changed.
Made me feel shiny and new, like a virgin, touched for the very first time.
Because in 1984, when Madonna performed that song at the MTV Video Music Awards, it wasn't just provocative, it was strategic, and most people didn't realize they were watching the future. That's the thing about being ahead of your time. In the moment, it looks controversial. A few years later, it looks obvious. And a decade later, it looks visionary. So the real question isn't whether Madonna was shocking. The real question is whether she was always 10 years ahead. And the deeper you look at her career, the harder that question is to dismiss. Now, let's rewind. Before she was a global icon, Madonna was a New York dancer. No safety net, no industry family connections, no guaranteed platform, just ambition and instinct. And instinct is important here because from the very beginning, she understood something that many artists still struggle with. Pop music isn't just about songs, it's about the narrative, it's about image, it's about reinvention. And she didn't stumble into that understanding, she engineered it. In the early 1980s, pop music was colorful, flashy, MTV driven, but female artists were still expected to fit certain roles. Sweet, approachable, safe. Madonna didn't play safe, she controlled her sexuality instead of hiding it. Now, that was radical, not because sexuality was new, but because ownership was. There's a difference. She wasn't presented, she presented herself. That's ahead of its time thinking. Because today, we talk openly about agency. Back then, it made headlines. Now let's talk about branding before social media, before personal brands were buzzwords, before influencers. Madonna understood visual identity. Every era had a look. The lace gloves, the crucifixes, and who can forget the Marilyn Monroe-inspired glamour period? The dominatrix time, the spiritual seeker, the electronic futurist. Each reinvention wasn't random, it was perfectly timed. It anticipated where culture was drifting, and that's where the 10 years ahead argument gets interesting. Let's take Like a Prayer, for example. When that video dropped in 1989, mixing religious imagery with pop sensuality, it caused an uproar. Pepsi pulled sponsorship. Religious groups protested. But here's what's fascinating. Today, religious symbolism in pop culture is very common now. Boundary-pushing visual storytelling is standard. But in 1989, it felt dangerous. She saw that collision coming before mainstream culture was ready. That's foresight. Now, let's jump to the 90s. Pop was shifting, hip-hop influence was rising, electronic music was growing underground, image was becoming more cinematic. Madonna pivoted again. Vogue. She didn't just hit release, she spotlighted ballroom culture. She pulled underground movement into global consciousness. And again, some people didn't understand it at the time. But that blending of subculture and mainstream, that became the blueprint for modern pop music. Now, ahead. Here's the pattern. Madonna doesn't react to trends, she anticipates them. When electronic music was still club focused, she embraced it fully with that beautiful song, Ray of Light. Now listen to modern pop music, ambient layers, spiritual undertones, electronic textures. It's standard now. Back then, it was a left turn. And now let's be fair, not every Madonna reinvention was universally praised or accepted. Some eras divided audiences, some albums confused listeners, and that's part of being ahead. If everyone understands it immediately, it's not ahead, it's current. Being ahead often looks strange in the moment, and that's where she thrives. Now, here's something else people underestimate about Madonna: longevity. Plenty of artists dominate a decade, very few dominate multiple decades. The 80s Madonna is different from the 90s Madonna, and the 2000 Madonna is different from the 2010s Madonna. She was a chameleon, and instead of fading quietly, she kept recalibrating. That requires two things: self awareness and fearlessness, because reinvention risks alienating your base, but staying the same risks irrelevance. She consistently chose evolution. That's not accidental, that's calculated bravery. Let's talk about control. Madonna fought for creative control in an industry that rarely handed it to women. She wasn't just the face, she was involved in direction, visuals, choreography, production decisions. That level of involvement is common now, but in the 80s, it wasn't typical. She wasn't just performing pop culture, she was steering it. And here's where the controversy angle comes in. Some critics argue that she wasn't ahead. They argue she borrowed from underground cultures and amplified them. That's a fair point and a fair debate. But amplification is influence. She had the platform, she used it. And that's part of why this conversation still sparks disagreement. Because being ahead isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's disruptive. Now, consider this. Before personal confession became mainstream in pop, Madonna made vulnerability theatrical. Before social media curated identity, Madonna curated eras. Before artists treated albums as visual experiences, Madonna treated them like cinema. Today, that's standard practice. Back then, it was innovation. Let's zoom out. What does 10 years ahead really mean? It doesn't mean predicting exact sounds. It means sensing where culture is shifting before the majority notices. And Madonna had that instinct repeatedly. And that's why she polarizes people. Because if you didn't experience the shock in real time, it's easy to underestimate it. But those who live through those eras remember the headlines, the debates, the discomforts. That discomfort is often the sign of cultural shift. Here's something crucial. Madonna understood controversy as currency, not chaos. Currency she didn't stumble into. She didn't stumble into backlash, she leveraged it. She knew that conversation extends lifespan, silence kills momentum, and while others avoided friction, she stepped into it strategically. That's not recklessness, that's control. Now let's address longevity again. 40 years in mainstream conversation, 40 years of reinvention, 40 years of headlines. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens when someone refuses to become predictable. And predictability is the enemy of relevance. Madonna never became predictable. So, was she always 10 years ahead? Maybe not in every moment, but consistently. She leaned forward while others leaned safe. And leaning forward changes culture, especially if it divides opinion. Because when you hear it now, it doesn't feel dangerous, it feels classic. And that transformation from scandal to standard is the strongest evidence of being ahead. The things that once shocked became the new normal. And Madonna built a career on that transition. Now, I'm curious, when you think of Madonna, do you see a provocateur, a strategist, a visionary, or simply a pop star who made the moment? Because sometimes the clearest sign someone was ahead is the fact that the world eventually followed. And whether you agree or disagree with the title, you can't deny one thing: she never stayed still. And in pop music, staying still is the fastest way to disappear. Madonna didn't disappear, she recalculated, and that might be the most ahead of its time move of all. And I hope you enjoy that about the Queen of Pop. If you did so, I hope you subscribe and become a part of the family. Also, we have membership where you can get to decide what topic we talk about next and other perks as well that you can enjoy. Check out the membership. My name is Harry. Stay cool, stay good, and I'll see you all next stop. Take care. Bye.